Imagine for a moment that the pressure to perform, whether it's in the bedroom, at work, or in life, disappears entirely. What if, instead of worrying about being good enough or meeting some ideal standard, you could simply show up as you are and experience true intimacy? Well, for many men, this is the secret to great sex, and it's not what most people think. When people think about what makes sex great for a man, they often reduce it to performance, technique, stamina, physical prowess, and how long he can last or how well he can satisfy his partner. This idea is constantly reinforced by media, locker room talk, and even well-meaning relationship advice that focuses heavily on physical execution. But what this narrative misses entirely is the emotional and psychological weight that men carry around sex. Beneath the surface, many men aren't just trying to impress their partners, they're trying to validate themselves. They're trying to prove they're man enough, good enough, experienced enough, and that they're not going to be judged or rejected. So when sex becomes about performance, it becomes a test. One that a lot of men are terrified of failing. This pressure pushes them into their heads, away from their bodies and out of the moment. They become more focused on whether they're doing it right than on whether they're connecting. It turns what should be an intimate, freeing experience into a high-stakes exam. The irony is, this very pressure undermines the connection and spontaneity that would make the moment powerful for both people. The reality is that great sex for a man has less to do with what he does physically and more to do with whether he feels emotionally safe and genuinely desired. If a man feels like his partner is judging him or comparing him to someone else or expecting a performance rather than a connection, he withdraws. He might still go through the motions, but he's not truly there. On the other hand, when a man feels that his partner is truly present with him, when she makes him feel seen, wanted, and appreciated, he relaxes, he opens up, and he gives more. His focus shifts from anxiety to enjoyment, from pressure to presence. That's when the experience becomes something deeper than physical. A space where vulnerability meets desire, where authenticity replaces performance, and where real intimacy is created. When men feel emotionally safe, their need to perform fades, and they become far more connected, generous, and adventurous because they're not afraid of being judged or failing. They stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be real, which is when sex shifts from just a physical act to something meaningful. Great sex for a man is not about how impressive he looks or what techniques he uses. It's about whether he feels free enough to be himself, to be vulnerable, to express without fear, and to connect on a level that validates him not just as a partner but as a person. So it's not performance that makes sex great, it's presence. And when a man can drop the weight of expectation and just be, he's not just having sex, he's making love in the truest sense, even if those words never leave his lips. Emotional safety is often overlooked when people talk about sex, especially in the context of men, but it's one of the most crucial elements in creating truly fulfilling intimacy. For a man, emotional safety means being able to express himself without fear of being judged, mocked, dismissed, or misunderstood. It means knowing that he can bring his insecurities, desires, and vulnerabilities into the space without them being used against him. Many men grow up being told to suppress emotion, to always appear strong, in control, and unaffected. And this conditioning doesn't just vanish when they enter a romantic or sexual relationship. In fact, it can make the bedroom a place of hidden fear and anxiety rather than freedom. When a man doesn't feel emotionally safe, he may still go through the motions of sex, but he holds back his full presence. He may become silent about what he likes or doesn't like, perform based on assumptions rather than communication, and remain distant because part of him is still on guard. But when that emotional safety is present, When his partner creates a space where he feels accepted, listened to, and not shamed for his thoughts or needs, everything changes. He can let go of his armor. He becomes more playful, curious, and expressive. He takes more emotional and physical risks, not out of ego, but because he trusts that he's not going to be ridiculed or rejected. Emotional safety allows him to shift from trying to get it right to actually enjoying the moment and giving more of himself to his partner. It creates the space for real intimacy to thrive, because he doesn't have to hide behind performance or pretend to be someone he's not. Many people don't realize how much a man craves this kind of openness. Not just the freedom to explore sexually, but to be emotionally naked as well. When a man feels safe, he's more likely to communicate honestly, initiate affection without fear of seeming too much, and become attuned to his partner's needs in a way that isn't forced or performative. This doesn't just make sex better, it makes connection deeper. It builds trust outside the bedroom, which loops back to build even better intimacy inside it. And the beautiful thing is, this emotional safety isn't about doing something big or dramatic. It's often found in the little things. How someone reacts when he shares something personal, how she holds eye contact, how she listens without trying to fix or judge, how she shows appreciation without expectation. These small signals let him know, you're safe here, you don't have to earn your place, you already have it. That sense of safety unlocks the best in him, not just sexually, but emotionally, because he no longer sees vulnerability as a liability. Instead, it becomes a bridge to closeness, to shared experience, and to pleasure that's rooted not just in sensation, but in trust, respect, and emotional connection that deepens everything that follows. A common misconception about men and sex is that they are primarily driven by the need to conquer, impress, or win validation through their sexual experiences. And this idea has been perpetuated by everything from movies to societal stereotypes. The idea that a man's worth is measured by how many women he's been with or how well he can perform is deeply ingrained in many cultures, leading to the belief that what men are truly seeking in sex is conquest, gathering validation through physical acts of pleasure and achievement. But the reality is far more complex and nuanced. Most men are not looking for accolades or notches on the belt. What they actually want is a sense of connection and authenticity with their partners, not just a moment of physical gratification. When a man feels that his value is only tied to his ability to perform or to meet some external standard, it creates a constant feeling of insecurity, even in the bedroom. He may constantly feel the pressure to prove himself, to be someone he's not, or to live up to an ideal of masculinity that's been forced upon him. In this environment, sex can become transactional or disconnected, rather than a shared, intimate experience. What truly affirms a man's masculinity is feeling seen, understood, and wanted by his partner, not just for his body or performance, but for who he is at his core. When a man feels that he is valued for more than his ability to please or impress, it gives him a sense of worth that goes beyond the physical. It allows him to relax, to engage fully, and to offer more of himself. In turn, this validation through emotional connection leads to deeper intimacy both in and out of the bedroom. Men who feel truly desired, cherished, and accepted are often the most generous lovers, because they are no longer driven by fear of inadequacy or the pressure to live up to a certain standard. They are more attuned to their partner's needs and more confident in their own ability to connect. The need for validation is universal. Everyone wants to feel wanted, loved, and respected. For men, this desire is no less strong, but it is often overlooked or misunderstood. Instead of seeking affirmation through numbers or physical prowess, Many men crave the experience of being seen and desired for their whole selves, their emotional selves, their vulnerabilities, their quirks, and their authentic desires. When a man feels this type of validation, it strengthens his emotional connection to his partner, and in doing so, it enhances the sexual experience for both people. This deeper connection fosters a kind of intimacy where sex becomes a way to share and express love, trust, and affection, rather than merely fulfilling a need for external validation or performance. Ultimately, what makes sex great for a man is not the number of experiences he's had or how well he performs. It's the emotional fulfillment and mutual respect he feels in a relationship where he is truly valued. Great sex doesn't just happen in the bedroom, it's rooted in everything that happens before that moment, how a couple interacts, communicates, and builds trust outside of sexual encounters. In fact, the emotional and physical connection that develops throughout the day, through small gestures and moments of affection, plays a significant role in shaping the quality of intimacy when the time comes to be intimate. For men especially, the experience of great sex begins long before the physical act itself. A man is not just a physical being, he's a complex emotional person who thrives on connection, understanding, and feeling seen. When a man feels valued through non-sexual interactions, such as a meaningful conversation, an act of kindness, or simple physical closeness, his desire to be intimate is magnified. These moments of affection, whether it's a gentle touch on the arm, a shared laugh, or emotional support in times of stress, create a foundation of trust that transforms a sexual encounter from a mechanical act into something deeply connecting. Without this emotional framework, even the most passionate physical encounter can feel hollow or disconnected. This is because sex, at its core, is not just a physical exchange, it's an emotional one. And the emotional tone of a relationship is set long before the bedroom door is closed. For men, particularly those who may not always express their emotions openly, these everyday acts of affection and communication help them feel emotionally grounded and secure. When they feel like they are being supported, respected, and desired outside of sexual moments, they are more likely to bring that same openness, vulnerability, and energy into the sexual experience. This means that when a man feels emotionally connected to his partner through meaningful interactions, his sexual desire isn't just a physical impulse, it becomes an extension of the emotional closeness he feels. It's no longer about getting in the mood or being turned on by something external. It's about wanting to share an intimate experience because he already feels a deep bond. In contrast, when these moments of connection are absent, when communication is sparse, or when affection is inconsistent, sex can feel disconnected or forced, lacking the depth and intimacy that make it truly fulfilling. A man's emotional state outside the bedroom, how he's treated, how his partner shows affection, how safe he feels to express himself, directly influences his sexual experiences. It's a cycle. The more connected he feels emotionally, the more likely he is to engage openly, creating a feedback loop that strengthens both emotional and physical intimacy. Therefore, great sex for a man is not merely about the physical act itself, but about the entire context in which it occurs, built on a foundation of emotional safety, communication, and affection that extends beyond the bedroom. Sexual encounters for many men often become overshadowed by the pressure to perform, to meet certain expectations about stamina, technique, and physical prowess. This pressure can make sex feel more like an obligation or a performance rather than a natural, enjoyable experience. However, the truth is that what truly makes sex incredible for a man is not his ability to last longer or hit certain physical milestones, but his ability to be fully present in the moment. When a man is free from the anxiety of performing and can simply be himself, the experience becomes more fulfilling on a deeper level. The key to this shift lies in the concept of presence. The ability to engage in the experience without judgment or distraction. Being present means letting go of the fears, self-consciousness, and expectations that so often accompany sexual experiences. When a man feels like he doesn't have to constantly monitor himself to ensure he's meeting some ideal standard, he is able to relax, connect, and enjoy the intimacy with his partner. Instead of worrying about whether he's doing it right or if he's meeting expectations, he becomes attuned to the sensations, the emotions, and the shared experience in the moment. This shift from pressure to presence transforms the entire encounter. When a man is truly present, he becomes more attuned to his partner's needs, desires, and emotions, creating a deeper connection and a more reciprocal experience. It's not about who lasts longer or who is more skilled. It's about both partners feeling connected, supported, and fully engaged with each other. This kind of connection fosters a sense of confidence, not the kind built on external validation or physical success, but a deeper, internal confidence that comes from simply being open, authentic, and vulnerable. Men often struggle with the idea that their worth in the bedroom is defined by how well they perform, and this can create a barrier to intimacy. When that pressure is removed and they're allowed to simply experience sex as a natural, flowing exchange of energy, it becomes a more enjoyable and emotionally satisfying experience. Being present means focusing on the connection, on the enjoyment of each other's company, and on the raw, unfiltered emotions that surface during intimacy. This state of being is not just about physical satisfaction, it's about emotional fulfillment, trust, and closeness, which all come from being fully engaged in the experience without distraction or anxiety. Great sex, in the end, is not about perfect technique or lasting longer than the next guy. It's about being truly there, open, and vulnerable with your partner. When a man is present, the experience becomes not just about sex. It becomes about an intimate connection that transcends the physical, creating a deeper, more profound bond. Sexual confidence is often misunderstood, especially in the context of men, where it is frequently tied to physical appearance, experience, or the ability to perform according to some external measure. However, true sexual confidence doesn't stem from those factors. Instead, it comes from a deeper, more internal place, the feeling of being accepted and emotionally secure in a relationship. When a man feels genuinely accepted by his partner for who he is, flaws and all, it allows him to relax and express himself without fear of judgment or rejection. This sense of emotional security creates a powerful feedback loop. The more accepted he feels, the more confident he becomes, not just in his sexual abilities, but in his ability to be vulnerable, present, and generous in his connection with his partner. Confidence, in this sense, is not about performing at a high level or meeting someone else's standards. It's about feeling free to be authentic and true to oneself. This shift allows men to embrace their true desires and to show up fully in the relationship, both emotionally and sexually. When they no longer feel the need to prove themselves, they can actually engage with their partner in a way that's more intimate and fulfilling. Men who experience this type of confidence are more likely to communicate openly about their desires, preferences, and boundaries, which enhances the sexual experience for both partners. They are also more likely to be considerate, generous, and present, because their self-worth isn't tied to how they measure up in the bedroom. Instead, It's rooted in the understanding that their value comes from the connection and mutual respect they share. This confidence is a key ingredient in fostering trust, and trust is essential for creating deeper intimacy, which naturally leads to better sex. When men feel emotionally safe and accepted, they are more willing to take risks, whether it's trying something new, being more expressive, or simply enjoying the moment without overthinking. The sense of emotional acceptance that breeds confidence transforms not only the sexual experience but the entire dynamic of the relationship, as it fosters open communication, mutual respect, and emotional closeness. Ultimately, true sexual confidence doesn't come from physical prowess or a checklist of experiences. It arises from the deep belief that one is enough just as they are. And when a man feels that way, it empowers him to give more, engage more deeply, and experience greater satisfaction, both for himself and for his partner. The confidence loop isn't just about sex, it's about emotional security and the mutual understanding that both partners are worthy of love, respect, and acceptance, which creates the foundation for a more fulfilling, meaningful relationship. In conclusion, the idea of what makes great sex for a man is often shaped by myths and misconceptions, but the truth is far more nuanced and intimate than many realize. It's not about performance, stamina, or meeting external expectations. It's about emotional connection, feeling safe, valued, and accepted. Men thrive in environments where they can drop the need to perform and simply be present, where emotional security and genuine desire take center stage. When a man feels seen, respected, and emotionally supported, he becomes more confident, more attuned to his partner's needs, and more open to exploring deeper levels of intimacy. Great sex for a man is not just about the physical act. It's the product of trust, connection, and mutual respect that extends beyond the bedroom and into the very fabric of the relationship. It's about emotional safety, vulnerability, and authenticity, which ultimately fosters a deeper bond and a more fulfilling experience for both partners. When men can let go of the pressure to perform and instead focus on being themselves, they unlock a level of intimacy and connection that transforms not just their sexual experiences, but their relationships as a whole. The real key to great sex is simple: be present, be authentic, and nurture a relationship where both partners feel loved and valued for who they truly are.